The Declaration of Independence quotes, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." That may be what our famous document says, but oftentimes that's not been the case here in the United States of America. For example, if all humankind are created equal, shouldn't we all have equal educational opportunities? Ruby Bridges, how one 6-year-old became a frontier in history. In the 20th century, public schools are based on a separate but equal policy, although usually there were notable differences between the qualities of the segregated schools, with white classrooms having better resources. Unfortunately, many people accepted this inequality, also known as Jim Crow laws, as just a way of life. This especially happened in the southern parts of America. However, in 1954, the Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka ruled racial segregation in public schools unethical. As a result, kindergartner and African American Ruby Bridges, along with the rest of her segregated New Orleans kindergarten, took a difficult test to see if she was logical enough to attend a white school. Ruby passed and was given the opportunity to attend the currently all-white William Frantz Elementary. Her parents, Avon and Lucille Bridges, both wanted what was best for her, but Avon was wary about letting his daughter be on the front lines of this frontier in history. After all, the other black children integrating were all going to a different school, McDonough Elementary. And past experiences with school integration in other areas had not gone well, such as the violent results of the Little Rock 9 integration. However, Lucille, Ruby's mother, convinced Avon to let their daughter attend William Frantz. It wasn't that Ruby's previous school was bad, it was just that this new school would mean more resources and opportunities for Ruby. On her first day, federal marshals came to Ruby's home to pick her up.
Main thing was just be sure nothing happened to her.
Once they arrived at the school, a massive crowd was gathered around the general area.
I thought I'd stumble onto a Mardi Gras parade.
All day long, white mothers took their kids out of school so that their old way of life, segregation, could continue. The chaos prevented Ruby from being in a classroom. She spent the whole day in the principal's office with her mother. On the way home from school, the crowd had grown even larger at the innocent age of 6. She wasn't able to connect the coffin with a black doll placed inside, or the cross with black paint coating it, to the color of her skin. The occurrence of black children attending a white school was definitely an unwelcome frontier for the white South, and as a result, chaos spewed out over the city. But the next day, Ruby came. She was ready to learn. None of the previous teachers from William Frantz were willing to take Bridges as a student. Barbara Henry, a teacher originally from Boston, came down to New Orleans to be Ruby's first grade teacher. Ruby would be her only student. Henry remembers her first impression of Bridges as,
amidst this towering presence of federal marshals stood the most beautiful little girl one could ever dream of seeing. And you know, it was a case of love at first sight.
On her second day of school, Bridges was able to settle down in a classroom to learn. A challenge for Ruby was having a white teacher. This was new for Ruby, and she had trouble seeing how the white teacher was different from the white protesters. However, Bridges soon overcame the challenge because of Henry's generosity.
I began to realize that there was no way she was like the people outside.
Every day, Ruby Bridges came to a school that was almost completely empty. Every day, the protesters came.
Sorry, dog. I can't keep up with that little girl's schedule.
Yet every day, little Ruby was learning something new, due to the fact she had an amazing teacher. After the first week, the amounts of mass chaos that had been occurring in the city of New Orleans started subsiding. But all was not well yet. The few white families that did send their kids to William Frantz were often targeted with violence. The other families, ones that were against integration, went on to set up a private school that was whites only.
We'd rather that school better than
As for the Bridges family, the protesters started to have a negative impact on Ruby. She didn't know why the crowds formed to see her get to school every day. That winter, she started seeing a psychiatrist, Robert Coles. One day, he asked Ruby why she had appeared to be talking to the protesters.
She looked right at me. She said I was talking to God.
Ruby had been praying for the white protesters, much like Jesus was before he was crucified. Growing up in a church, Ruby learned to rely on God from a young age, and that continued through her transfer to William, France. Because of that, she was able to find joy during a tough time in her life, even at only 6 years old. Through perseverance and through her trust in God, Ruby simply kept coming back to school each day. That spring, Ruby was able to play with other white kids that were at William, France. The federal marshals were no longer needed. In 1961, Ruby proceeded to the 2nd grade at William, France. That year, the protesters were gone completely. Ruby was in an integrated class. Bridges attended an integrated high school, and she went on to become a travel agent for 15 years. After a tragic death in her family, however, Bridges felt a calling to do more to help distinguish the hate of racism. She created the Ruby Bridges Foundation, and with it, she has been able to help kids all over the country. To this day, Ruby Bridges is continuing to spread messages of love.
We have to remember what this nation was founded on: equality and freedom.
So the simple act of a 6-year-old coming to a new school every day for her 1st grade year made a big difference to the people of the public school system of New Orleans. After all, the school system had now been integrated. According to the American Heritage Dictionary, the definition of a frontier is a region beyond or at the edge of a settled area. In history, oftentimes the frontiers are the things that go beyond what we've already accomplished. When Bridges integrated the New Orleans public school system, she went beyond what the community had previously known. New Orleans was used to the Jim Crow laws, with a separate but supposedly equal policy. But Bridges went beyond those laws. Through the action of a white teacher educating a black student, a frontier was able to occur. This was because, for that particular region, integration was a new idea. It was a place never settled on before. But Bridges and Henry went on to show the school system that this new concept could bring about a profit for all, that integration was a place worth calling home. However, with many frontiers, there is still work to do. For example, many white children now attend private schools. This doesn't change the historical importance of Bridges' integration. It just changes how we think about Bridges' impact. When Ruby Bridges integrated William France Elementary School in 1960, the event became a frontier in history. She was part of an integration movement in New Orleans, Louisiana that resulted in another step taken towards integration of the public schools in the city. I believe that Ruby Bridges created the possibility of blacks learning alongside whites in New Orleans. And that happens today in some cases. However, in other cases, this possibility, this frontier, has not been put into practice just yet. We should all be inspired by Ruby's love, hope, and grace that she has displayed through her educational experiences. What she did was truly a frontier in history.